Pastors Chooks and Toyin Ogoye. Pastors Chooks and Toyin Ogoye are the lead pastors of Resurrection Life Church, Johannesburg, South Africa. They are passionate about building families and raising men and women who transform and uplift the standard of life in their communities through understanding and applying biblical principles. Pastor Chooks and Pastor Toyin frequently host workshops, seminars, and conferences for transformation. Some of their programs include Kingdom Financiers Conferences, Dream Achievers Conferences, Marriage Enrichment Courses and Seminars, For Wives Only Seminars, Single Ladies Boot Camps, and Limitless Men Seminars. They are the founders of the Power of Women Academy, a group mentorship for high-impact women, and host the annual Power of Women conferences and amazing Power of Women broadcasts. For more information, please visit www.idelight.co.za and www.reslife.org.za or WhatsApp +27 814 210 835.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Amazing Power of Women broadcast. I am Dr. Chucks Ugoe here. Tonight we continue our studies on women of the Bible. And I've really enjoyed this series. We've been on it now for a while. We're looking at all the characters in the Bible as the Spirit of God guides us to highlight them. Today we are looking at a very interesting character. The Bible did not give us the name of this woman, and she was a young woman. We don't know how old she was. She could have been a teenager. She could have even been in her preteens, but the Bible called her a young woman. So today we are looking at Naaman's little slave girl. That's our title, Naaman's little slave girl. Her story is found in 2 Kings chapter 5. And we're going to read that, maybe read from verse 1, but her mention is in verse 2. Now Naaman, 2 Kings chapter 5. Now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Israel, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but a leper. Verse 2. And the Syrians had gone out on raids and had brought back captive a young girl from the land of Israel. She waited on Naaman's wife. Then she said to her mistress, "If only my master were with the prophet who is in Samaria, for he would heal him of his leprosy." For he would heal him of his leprosy. And Naaman went in and told his master, saying, "Thus and thus said the girl who is from the land of Israel." All right. So this young woman is our focus for tonight's study. We're looking at all the different characters in the Bible, how their lives reflected the amazing power that a woman has, and how they used it either positively or negatively. So our focus this evening is on this little young slave girl. We don't know how old she was, but she was a young woman. I want you to think about this woman and a little bit of her background. She's an Israelite. The Syrians had gone to Israel to raid. When these raids happen, usually men are killed and women are taken captive, and women and children are taken captive to become slaves. This must be what has happened here. They went on a raid. Maybe they killed her family. They snatched her forcibly, took her out of her country, took her away from her people, took her away from her family, and brought her into a foreign country to serve a warlord, to serve a general in the army, the wife of the general in the army of Israel, of Syria, sorry. So this girl is put in a situation where the God of Israel, as it were, allowed her to be captured by enemies. I know many of us who deal with situations that we just struggle to understand. We just struggle to make sense. Her family had been torn apart. She's she's taken away from her family. She has been, dragged off the family line and family life. And now she's a slave in a foreign country. She is in a place where she could have been bitter. Why didn't God deliver me? Why didn't God, help me? And imagine that the trauma of being separated from her family, she was crying. She doesn't know what's going to happen to her. Are these people going to take her and kill her? Are these people going to take her and turn her into a sex slave? What are these people, soldiers, going to do with her life? So imagine all that uncertainty. Imagine all that trauma of being snatched away from her family at a young age. Now she is living in a foreign country, under a foreigner's house. She did not allow her bad circumstances to affect her worldview, to affect the way she saw life. This is something very important. Many times life may deal with us a hand we didn't expect. I know that this girl never expected to be captured by strangers, captured by a foreign army, an invading foreign army, and taken captive forcefully out of her natural family. But this is what she is dealing with. Now, this situation can make somebody bitter, can make somebody apprehensive, can make somebody very fearful, can make somebody withdraw, can make somebody, this situation can make somebody become what they are not. Because she's already traumatized. It's a big trauma that you are snatched from your family and you're taken by strangers to a place you don't know, to go and do work you don't understand. But this is where she is. So she worked for a powerful and successful warlord who came home regularly with success stories of war victories. So imagine her working for this man and his family. The Bible doesn't tell us a lot about whether he had children or he didn't have children. All we know is that she served this man's wife. So this man was a warring general who constantly had victories, who constantly had success. So he comes back home with stories of all the things that they did today and all the people they killed and all the people that they captured and all the treasures that they looted and so on and so forth. That's the story that this girl has gotten accustomed to hearing. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us how long she's been living in Naaman's house, but she's been there long enough to observe that Naaman has a problem. Naaman is successful, yes, but Naaman has a problem. Naaman has a health problem that he couldn't find a solution to. And she observed that this problem was really debilitating to Naaman. Despite his successes, Naaman probably was unhappy because of the pain of the health condition that he was undergoing. So, this girl, maybe her parents are dead, maybe her family, had died, and the trauma is real to her, but she did not allow it. She had the courage to speak up and honor the prophet in Israel, Elisha, and speak highly of Elisha's gift, Elisha's anointing to heal. So while she is there, God did not help her. God did not come to her rescue when the foreign army invaded and marauded the whole city and the whole town and captured people. She was not delivered, but she did not allow that to affect her faith in God. This is important. No, you look at this girl and you wonder, how do you go through so much and you have faith in this same God that did not help you? You have that faith to recommend the prophet of God and the God that the prophet serves to solve a problem for this man. How come you are not bitter against God? How come you are not bitter against these people? Even the man that she's working for is the one that captured her, that brought her out of her family, and yet she was not bitter. She was not. So I'm just thinking about it. Can you figure that She's a small, maybe preteen girl or teenage girl, you know. She's living in the house of a very powerful man. You know, could she be listened to? You know, imagine all kinds of thoughts are going on her head. Now, this is a very touchy, personal struggle. The leprosy was making Naaman a social outcast. So imagine her wanting to raise the topic, and they say, who invited you? Who asked you to talk about it? They slap her, they beat her. She's a slave. She's a slave. So imagine all that could happen, could go wrong in her just trying to help. She was only trying to help. And it could go wrong because they could ask her, who invited you? Who asked you to talk about the master and his leprosy? Who told you that we want to go and get help from a prophet in Israel? What kind of nonsense is that? You know, so she overcame all of that. She refused to allow, you know, the thought of inferiority, the thought of God didn't help me. How is he going to help someone else? She didn't allow that thought. And this is why I am talking about her this evening. See, the Holy Spirit, you know, in my time of prayer last night was highlighting this woman, or this young woman. She may not have gotten her healing, but she was willing to offer healing solution for someone else. She may not have gotten a deliverance. She's still a slave. She has not been delivered. She has not been, you know, restored to her family. But she was willing to talk about the prophet in Israel to help a man who was hurting. Wow. So in the midst of her own trauma, her compassion was still strong. That's the message. That we will not allow our own trauma affect our capacity to reach out to other people and help other people. See, Naaman would have died a leper. Like seriously, Naaman would have died a leper if this girl didn't speak up. And they will not blame her if she never, you know, said anything about the prophet in Israel. They will not blame her. They will not even know that she knows that the prophet had powers, healing powers and a healing anointing to heal this man. So she spoke up because her compassion rose above her trauma. Her compassion rose above her trauma. Woman of God, will you allow your compassion to rise above your own struggles and your own trauma? Will you allow the amazing power God has put inside of you stand out above your own struggles so that you use that power and use it well? This young slave girl used that power, the power of compassion, the power of empathy, the power of, you know, connecting with other people's struggles and their pain, sensitivity to other people's struggles and pain. She allowed her compassion to rise above her own struggle. There are many times people are not able to, you know, help other people because they say, me, I'm struggling. Me, I have my own problems. Please, let me face my own problems before I start talking about someone else's problems. But not this woman. She did not do that. She did not say, let me face my own problems before I start, you know, talking about someone else's problems. No. She believed that the prophet in Israel will be able to help this man. And look at what she said. She said he will heal her. For her, it was not, he will heal him. For her, it was not a probability. It was not a chance. She was so sure that the prophet Elisha will be able to help her master, Naaman. Her faith in God was unshaken. Her faith in God was resolute. Her faith in the God of Elisha, despite her own pain. You know, our own pain can sometimes cause us to doubt the power of God, to doubt the hand of God, to doubt the willingness of God to help other people. Our own pain can stop us from being useful, stop us from allowing God to use what he has deposited inside of us. But this girl allowed God to use what he had deposited inside of her despite her own pain. That's the big lesson we learn from this girl. Look at all the odds that were standing against her. That could have, any one of these reasons or a combination of some of these reasons could have been enough, justification for her to keep quiet. She's a young girl in a male-dominated world. She's a foreigner in a foreign country. She is a slave walking away from her family who may be dead. She has no power. She had no prestige. She worked for the enemy of her people. The man who used to conduct these raids was the one that she was working for. So she was not bitter against that man, even though that man may have been the commanding general who gave instructions for her family to be slaughtered. She did not allow it to affect her from allowing God use the power that God put inside of her. Look at this. Her name is not even mentioned. We're talking about a nameless girl. That's how insignificant she was. So what it was, she was in a situation where her circumstances were telling her she was insignificant. She refused to see herself as insignificant. You can be in a situation where your circumstances are telling you that you are insignificant, that your God is dead, that God doesn't answer you. The question is, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about your God? Your circumstance can be saying one thing. What are you saying? The problem is that we agree with the circumstance and say what the circumstance is saying. Not this girl. The circumstance said you are nameless. The circumstance said you are a slave. The circumstance said you are traumatized. The circumstance says you are a nobody. But she said to herself, I have faith in the God of Israel. I know the God of Israel. I believe in him. I know he will solve this problem. I know we can get help from the God of Israel. So she believed in her identity as a person that comes from the house of Israel. And the people of the house of Israel are people of covenant. So she believed in that covenant. She believed that, that God still works, that God still answers prayer, that God still heals. This young girl is phenomenal. She's phenomenal. She carried herself in such a way that her mistress trusted her. She's a stranger, she's a foreigner in a foreign country, and a slave for that matter. But the way she had carried herself and comported herself since she arrived made her mistress have some faith in her. To even allow her to bring a suggestion to a sensitive issue. That tells you something about this girl. May the Lord grant us wisdom to rise above our own pain, to be used by God in the circumstances that we may find ourselves in. This is what this girl, she rose above her pain. I don't know what has happened to you. I don't know what you are dealing with. I don't know what the enemy has thrown in your direction. Are you going to rise above your pain and allow God to use you while you are still in pain? While you are still in pain, while you're still struggling with the financial difficulty, can God use you to provide for somebody else while you are still in financial difficulty? Because, many times the thought is, let me deal with my own problem. Let me solve my own financial issues before I start talking about sponsoring the gospel, before I start talking about paying a tithe, before I start talking about giving to a man of God. No. There are issues in my life. There are problems in my situation. I need to deal with them. Can you see how this girl's thinking is totally different from that? She had her own problems, and they were real problems. But she rose above that to allow herself to be used by God. To allow herself to be used by God. And we thank God that she did, and God used her. Today, think about, in what areas is God wanting to use you despite your pain? In what areas is God wanting to use your resources, use your things despite your pain? In what areas? I want you to rise above your pain. Let compassion, let your faith rise up. This girl's faith was strong. Her compassion was strong. Two things that helped her, her sensitivity to the circumstances around her life. She reminds me of Joseph, who was in prison but ministering to other prisoners. He was in prison. He was a prisoner, but he didn't allow his own situation get in the way. He was ministering to other prisoners, and that was what eventually got him out. Because he allowed himself to be a blessing when he himself needed a blessing. He allowed himself to be a blessing when he himself needed a blessing. It's a big lesson for us today. You know, many people say, I can't serve in church because I am dealing with my own issues. I can't do ministry because I am dealing with this problem or the other. No. Can we rise above our own problems and make ourselves available? Many times our breakthrough will come from that. The Bible doesn't tell us that Naaman celebrated this girl or Naaman, rewarded her. But if Naaman could bring out so much riches, so much treasures to say thank you to the prophet, I can imagine that he will come back home and say, this girl that pointed me in the direction that I went and got my healing, can we do something for her? Can we do something for her? So it paid off for this little girl. I am sure it paid off that she did not allow her own pain to blind her eyes to see other people's pain. That her own issues will stop her from seeing other people's issues. No, she did not allow that. That's a big lesson we learn from this girl. So will you sit down tonight and think about it? In what areas do you have an opportunity to be a blessing, but you're holding yourself back because you're too focused on your own problems? You're too focused on the things that you are dealing with. You're too focused on the things that are worrying you, that you are not seeing opportunity to be a blessing to somebody else. You're not seeing opportunity to allow what God has deposited in your life to flow out to be a blessing because you're blinded by your own problems. Can I tell you something? It is when you rise above your own problems to meet other people's problems that your own problems can eventually find a solution. That was what happened to Joseph. That was what happened to Joseph. If he never helped those people in prison, those prisoners, and interpreted their dreams, nobody would have known that he had a gift in interpreting dreams. And it was that gift that took him to the palace. So thank God that he was willing to exercise that gift even when he was not convenient. He was willing to exercise that gift even when he was in pain himself. So if you're allowing your pain to stop you from exercising your gift, you allow your pain to stop you from being generous, allowing your own problems to stop you from being a giver, allowing your own problems, you are missing out on opportunity to be eternally delivered. You are missing an opportunity to be rewarded in the future. You are missing an opportunity for a door to open for you. I can tell you now that when Naaman came back healed, the way this girl is looked at, because there were other servants in the house. The Bible tells us there were other servants in the house. So the way this girl will be considered and carried by other servants in the house will be totally different, because she brought a solution to a problem that had been there maybe longer than she had been alive. Much longer before she arrived at that house, that problem had been there, and she brought a solution because she was willing to look past her pain. She was willing to go past her own struggles. She was willing to go past her own trauma to be a blessing to someone else. Don't let your own trauma kill your compassion. Don't let your own struggle kill your own opportunities that God is giving to you to serve people, to minister to people, to be of help to people. Don't let your own pain keep you from being a blessing. This is the lesson that we learned from this girl. Don't let your own pain keep you away from being a blessing. Because if it does that, you will die in the pain. You will die in the pain. See, Joseph could have died in the prison because nobody would have known that he had a gift to interpret dreams. He would have died in the prison. So I allow God to use you even while you are in your pain. I think you got a lesson. Meditate on this story again, and allow the Lord to use you, be a blessing to somebody else. That scripture in Habakkuk chapter 3, it says that even if the fig tree does not produce and the harvest is bad, but I will rejoice. In other words, I will not allow the pain in my own circumstance affect my joy, affect my peace, affect my capacity to minister to other people. Can I deal with negativity and still be a blessing? Can I deal with negativity and not radiate negativity in my world? Obviously, this girl did not radiate negativity in her world. She radiated positivity. She radiated solution, even though she was dealing with issues in her own life. That's a lesson for us I love you. Good night. I'll see you next week for another edition of the Amazing Power of Woman broadcast. Bye-bye.
The Power of Woman Academy is a group mentoring program for high-impact women. Women who want to change their lives and their worlds and move on to the next level. Power of Woman Academy is aimed and tailored at unleashing the passion and greatness locked inside you as a woman as you walk the journey of life over the mentorship period with our team of distinguished and well-accomplished mentors from all walks of life. Our mentors are indeed destiny helpers. These mentors come to inspire you. They come to encourage you, to challenge you, to teach you, to stretch you, and to empower you. They are committed to helping you fulfill your highest potential and help you birth your wildest dreams that have been placed in you by God. For more information about the Power of Woman Academy, please visit www.powacademy.co.za or for inquiries, call 064 200 1545.